I'm going to say that again because that was bad.
Thank you. Welcome to Stargazing, a Stargate gazing podcast. I'm your host, Mary.
And I'm your other host, Kathy.
And each week we review an episode of Stargate alternating between SG-1 and Atlantis.
Hello?
Hello. Your username says Home Alone Forever. Is your freeloading brother finally gone?
He is gone. He still has a little bit of stuff to pick up and also his cats tomorrow, but he is out.
I know he wasn't really freeloading, but still he did stay way too long.
But he is out of my house.
Now all time is Jimbo time.
That is right. And do you know what I'm not doing right now?
Wearing pants?
Exactly. Woo! Amazing.
No Pants Podcast.
Hell yeah. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
I hear you had a little visitor.
Yeah, that was so weird. I was trying to watch this episode and a bird kept attacking the window and then sitting on the windowsill just staring in the room.
Mine.
And then it would fly away and I would try to focus on the episode and then it would come back.
Mine?
And attack the window a little bit more. And then it would sit on the windowsill for a while again and then it would fly away. And at one point it came back with a worm and then it went away. And it was just very, very weird. And it's very hard to focus on the episode of Stargate that you're watching when there's just a bird that repeatedly keeps flying into the window and tapping on the window and... It's very strange.
Yeah, that is very strange.
It was very cute, but I was definitely worried it was going to hurt itself with how much flying into the window it was doing. And I mean, granted, it's a pretty gray day, but I had the light on in the room specifically to try to help lessen whatever reflection it might have been seeing, but it didn't seem to help at all.
So weird.
Yep, it really was. And it was like the whole time. And I had already seen it on the windowsill a couple times when I had walked past that room earlier.
Mine.
And I'm like, oh, that's weird that bird's just chilling there and looking in the room.
For sure.
But yeah, the entire hour plus that I was in there just kept coming back.
That's very helpful for paying attention to episodes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially very talky episodes like this one.
It's true.
Yep, very, very strange.
Yeah. That bird wants to live with you.
Apparently. I would have let it in if that part of the window opened, but it didn't. It kept coming to the center pane that doesn't open.
Yeah. Yeah. Just smash it.
Yeah. Oh, I should have done that. I didn't think of it. And then it could have just flown right in next time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Free pass to come and go.
Yeah. I'll tell Jeff to do that.
Not a chance.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he's downstairs. He can go and take care of it.
Excellent.
We'll have a new bird friend forever. Yay.
And no other problems.
Nope. No other problems. No bird flu taking out the whole house.
Nope.
Definitely not the outcome of that story.
Yeah.
Yep. Yikes. I hope it's not sick with something like bird flu, because that just makes me sad to think that there might be something wrong with his little bird head.
And that's why it keeps flying at you.
And that, yeah, exactly. Because it's just sick or something. I hope not. I hope it's just weird and confused and trying to find a mate and looking in the wrong place.
Not this time.
Oh. My brother just sent me a text message that says, "Where do I find my trash pickup schedule?" I'm like, I don't live in your town. How would I know?
It's normally posted on a town hall website, if there is one.
Yeah.
They're moving to the middle of nowhere. They might not have one.
Yeah, I'm going to say town website.
I'm curious now because, when we lived in New Hartford, there wasn't one.
Oh, interesting. So did you have to take your trash places or did you have to contract your own?
You could either take your trash. Yeah, we ended up contracting with somebody because after like 1 week, we're like, we're never going to ever go to the dump with our trash.
Yeah.
So why are we even pretending? Let's just go ahead and contract somebody. It wasn't that expensive. So what is this episode that this bird was distracting me from watching since I have no other segue?
This is Stargate Atlantis Season 2, Episode 18, Michael.
It was.
Yeah. We start with a dude waking up with a start.
Indeed.
It's a man in his infirmary. This man is played by Connor Trinier.
You're never going to let that go, are you?
As we have perhaps mentioned before.
I was excited to finally see him.
Yeah. I was like, I forgot how beautiful your eyes are, man.
Yeah, right? They are.
Yeah. He is in the infirmary in Atlantis, although he does not know that, and it's kind of hard to tell initially because he's just in a darkened room with a bunch of monitors around him.
Yeah, it's clear he's in a hospital bed, but it's not obvious he's on Atlantis.
This is actually, the whole episode I thought was really shot very well. It was a pretty episode to watch, I thought. Very interesting.
It didn't strike me at all as
interesting.
I didn't notice anything special about the cinematography.
I don't know. They had a lot of darkened rooms. There was a lot of shadow stuff happening, like when he was having sessions with people later. There was like one scene where he's talking to Taylor and there's a mirror. You see him in the mirror, but you're looking at Taylor in the camera. I thought it was just really, really nicely done. The other thing about him waking up in this hospital bed is he is all alone. There is no one there with him. So he just seems very confused and out of sorts in his bed.
Understandably.
Yeah. And then we are elsewhere in Atlantis. I think it's Dr. Weir's office.
Yeah.
She gets a call from Dr. Beckett that he's awake. So Beckett and Weir and Shepard, a bunch of people converge to go see this man who's in the hospital bed. Dr. Beckett is checking him out, doing doctor things. He reports to Weir that his blood pressure's fine, his pulse is fine. He tells Michael, this guy's name is Michael, we learn immediately, that he's bouncing back quite nicely. But Michael has no idea what he's bouncing back from. Dr. Weir comes up and says hello to him and asks if he remembers her. He does not. So she introduces herself and him and asks if he knows where he is. And he's like, I don't even know who I am, which is very sad for somebody to not know.
Yeah. That would be rather upsetting to wake up someplace you don't recognize and have no recollection of who you are. Yeah, very disturbing.
So she tells him his name is Lieutenant Michael Kenmore, and that he is in a private room off of the infirmary. So he's getting some kind of special treatment in a private room. What?
Fancy.
Yeah. She does mention Atlantis and ask if anything is familiar, and that's the one thing he can sort of glom onto but doesn't have any real memories about, but it sounds familiar to him. Shepard says that Michael was a member of his team and that he was captured by the Wraith, which is another word he recognizes. They tell him they don't know what was done to him, but he was wounded in some way during the mission and has been unconscious for days. They do not know yet why he can't remember anything. Beckett promises they're going to do further tests. And Dr. Weir promises they're going to give him the best possible care to help with his recovery. Then we're up above. So I think we saw in the last episode that they've introduced an observation room to the infirmary.
Just like they have an SG-1.
Yeah. And there's a room full of, again, monitors and stuff. There's a lot of monitoring going on in this episode. Weir, Shepard, and Beckett come in, and they are then now observing from on high. She tells Beckett to keep a close eye on him, and they must proceed with caution until they know more. There could be more problems.
Yeah. Something suspicious is going on.
Yeah. And then I think that's credits.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Then it's sometime later, and Beckett is there talking to Michael, just doing some tests and stuff and giving him some medications. It turns out that Michael has type 1 diabetes, at least so says Dr. Beckett, so he needs daily injections of insulin to help keep his blood sugar where it needs to be. And apparently Michael's been managing it quite nicely, so good for him.
Good job. Yes.
And then Beckett continues that they think that he has something called generalized dissociative amnesia, which I did not look up at all to see if that is actually a real diagnosis. But they said that he got some significant trauma, whether it was head trauma or just mental trauma, they don't specify, but he was apparently captured by the Wraith, and the trauma of that whole thing is what supposedly is causing this amnesia that he had. But maybe over time his memory will return, and they're going to try to help him fill in the gaps in the meantime. But only a little at a time so they don't overwhelm him. But too late for that. Michael says he's already feeling completely overwhelmed.
Aw, poor guy.
Right. And then it's up in the observation room. Beckett is up there, and Taylor comes in. I guess that he just watches Michael sleeping or whatever when they're not talking.
Well, what do you think?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's weird. Taylor was not in the scene before, so she comes in and says that she heard that Michael was awake, and Beckett confirms that he is and doesn't remember anything. Taylor wants to come down and talk to him, and then also tells Beckett that he looks exhausted and he needs to rest, but we all know that that's not going to happen. So she heads out to go down and talk to Michael.
She does.
Yes. So she goes and introduces herself. She says that they know each other because he's assisted her and her team on a few missions. Does that mean that they are friends? Michael would like to know, and she says yes, and is clearly lying when she says it.
Yes.
She has a very forced smile on her face when she says it, so I did think that that was some good face acting on her part
Hell
there.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was smiling. You could definitely tell it was a fake smile, though.
Yeah.
She asks how he's feeling, and he says he's fine despite the fact that he can't remember anything. But he knows he's a lieutenant at least, so he's happy about that, I guess.
If he even knows what that means.
Right? Yeah. She tells him that he has arrived in the city pretty recently, but that he's already proven himself to be a very fine soldier. So good for him. But he wants to know if he was such a good soldier, how did he get captured by the Wraith? But Taylor says that it was quite heroic when they were ambushed by a Wraith cruiser and he sacrificed himself to save many of his teammates. I thought it was weird that during this whole thing, they never bring in any members of his supposed team. And that just seemed very strange that he never asks to meet them, never asks to see them. They never have anyone come in. I thought that was an oversight on their part.
Well, it's especially weird because I assumed when Shepard was talking to him before that he was telling him he was on his team, but then it doesn't sound like that is the case.
No.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because Taylor obviously is on the same team as Shepard, and she says that Michael just helped their team a few times.
Yeah, very strange.
Rather than being on the team. Get your story straight, guys.
Yeah,
Come on. Yeah.
Lie better.
Right, and also fill in the backstory better.
Yeah.
With the team members that he supposedly saved. But no, that's not what they did.
No.
Michael asks if Taylor helped to rescue him, and she said that she did, so he says, well, then you're even more heroic.
Aw. Friendship is born. Not really, but...
Nah. As much of one as we'll see in this episode.
After this, Taylor meets with Weir, Beckett, Shepard, and also Dr. Heitmeyer is there, who is the therapist.
An analyst and a therapist.
Yeah, we haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah. Well, nobody's had other consciousnesses implanted in their heads recently,
Yeah.
so...
Yes, they have.
That's true.
Like 2 episodes ago.
Whatever. It's fine. Anyway, Taylor is recounting her conversation with Michael. She's like, he said I was familiar and asked if we were friends. And she told him they were because maybe some positive news would be good for him. Dr. Heitmeyer agrees. And she tells Dr. Weir that he's doing well, but they need to do more to ease his recovery. So she wants to have him integrated into the community, which they're making faces as she's saying these things like,
Yes.
we're uncomfortable with all of this. We don't like what's happening. But they don't say what's going on. You just see it. So I'm saying it for them into this microphone.
Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome. Dr. Beckett reports he's physically fine. Everything's looking good. He just needs some physical therapy to regain his muscle tone.
I'm Hans,
And I'm Franz,
and we want to pump you up.
And he thinks that Michael is ready to be released into the public.
You son of a bitch! I hate this doctor!
Shepard thinks this is a bad idea because he might have residual effects he might be carrying around without again explaining anything about what's going on with this guy.
Yeah.
But Dr. Weir agrees with the rest of them that it's time to let him go. So that's what they're going to do.
Indeed. And then it's later, and Taylor is showing Michael around the base, and she brings him to his quarters. We see that there's some security room or something where they are watching his quarters on camera, so that's weird. I would hope that they're not doing this in everyone's quarters.
I hope not.
'Cause that would be very inappropriate.
Indeed.
Shepard is in there with a couple other people watching Taylor and Michael in his quarters. She asks if anything in there looks familiar to him, but he says that it doesn't. There's a cowboy hat in there. He's from Texas, she tells him. That's why he has his cowboy hat. Of course.
Yep.
And then she shows a picture of supposed parents, and Michael stares at them and just looks skeptical, frustrated, something. He had a weird reaction to the photo of what Taylor said were his parents.
Are we supposed to play some kind of guessing game?
Have fun.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that was about.
Yeah.
Except for the part where he has no idea who they are, but none of us do. Who are those people? Do you think they
No idea.
pick someone's parents and put pictures
I
of
think
them?
so. Yeah. I bet they're Weir's parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She looks like
That's
she'd
my
have
guess.
parents.
She does look like she would have parents. Most people look like they would have at some point have had parents, at least from a biological standpoint.
True. This is very true.
Yes.
And important to point out.
Yes. Then it's sometime later, and the commissary, Rodney's there complaining about the lack of blue jello to the guy who's bussing the table and wants to know when the blue jello is going to be coming back. But the guy doesn't know or care and just walks away without saying anything. I thought it was amusing. Also, it's really shitty that you get to go off-world and live on Atlantis, and your job is just busboy.
That's true.
I would be so pissed if I went to Atlantis and that ended up being my job. I'd be like, what the fuck is this shit?
Fair. That is very fair.
Why am I even here? Bus your own damn tables. I felt bad for that guy.
I know. Especially because, you got whiners like Rodney, like, where's my jello?
Complaining about the blue jello. It's not his job to know, Rodney.
No, he just gets to pick up your trash.
Yeah.
Did you notice, too, when Rodney stood up when he was talking to the guy, another person slipped into his chair?
Oh, no. Somehow I missed that.
He was still standing right at the table, and she just sat down in his chair.
That's very weird.
It was very funny.
Yeah, I have no idea how I managed to miss that. That is amusing.
Yes.
Then, instead of trying to sit back down in his chair that was taken over by somebody else, apparently, Rodney goes over to talk to Michael. He just acts like he already knows Michael and just addresses him as Lieutenant Kenmore and just stands there and stares at him for a bit. I was wondering what Rodney's purpose was with this.
I don't know.
He just walked up to him and said his name, and then that was it. Didn't introduce himself, didn't try to start a conversation, just stood there.
Yeah. I wonder if there was like a general directive to be like, make this guy feel comfortable, and Rodney's not good at that. So
Yeah. Yeah. So when Michael is basically like, I have amnesia, I don't know who you are, Rodney says, oh, right, I'm Dr. McKay, and introduces himself. Rodney basically says, I'm pleased to see that you're out. That's good. But Michael notices that he has bodyguards everywhere he goes, which he finds to be suspicious, and is guessing it's in case he has some sort of freak out, which makes Rodney look very concerned that Michael might have a freak out.
Yeah.
You're fine, aren't you? He asks, he sounded very skeptical there.
yeah.
Yeah, but Michael says he's fine. Everything's fine. But then he noticed that Rodney was holding a Wraith materializer schematic, and he was surprised that he knew what that was and asks how he knew what that was. But Rodney comes up with a quick answer that his team's mission was to infiltrate the Wraith ship and get it? Sure. Yeah. And apparently that mission was successful because now Rodney has this schematic, except that Michael was captured.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, then he got rescued, so that's what matters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then Rodney's out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, he awkwardly wanders off.
He does. And then Michael is with Taylor sparring. She's there to help him with his physical fitness and also for fighting skills. All good stuff. So it's always fun to watch Taylor spar with people.
Agree.
She shows him some moves and he's like, I can't do that. You say I'm a fighter, but I clearly can't do that. But he can, and he does. And he ultimately ends up slamming her on the ground and smacking her chest with his palm, which is sort of like, oh, Wraithy thing to do. Spoiler.
Indeed. Yes, it was.
Unfortunately, at this very moment, while he's just talking to her, he's like, wow, I really did do that. Whoa, you were right. Ronan comes in and brute forces him off and slams him against a wall.
Slams him against a wall like 3 feet off of the
It was
floor.
really high up.
Worth mentioning. Yeah.
Very, very high.
Yeah.
Ronan wants Michael to keep his hands off Taylor, and Taylor is like, let him go. We were sparring. It was physical therapy. Let him go now. Finally, he does and storms out of there. And Michael's just like, sorry. Why is Michael sorry? What did he do? Nothing. Michael did nothing.
I have done nothing wrong ever in my life.
I know this. And I love you.
Yeah.
Just being attacked by Ronan for no reason, supposedly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did beat up Taylor,
With her consent?
I guess. But yeah, I was going to say, that's all we know so far, and it was sparring. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a reaction there. Then we're in Dr. Heitmeyer's office, and I did not pay attention to the lighting, but Kathy says it was cool, so I'll go with
like,
that.
There were a lot of like slats on the windows, so you would see like lines of shadow across their face, or at least across Michael's face at points. I thought it was really cool. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I was not paying
Some
attention.
nice green plants. That's all.
Didn't pay attention to those either. I was very distracted by this bird,
I
Kathy.
understand. I 100% understand that.
It just kept sitting there looking at me and hitting the window.
I would be distracted by a bird staring at me too.
You stare at him, and he just stares right back. And that's when the attack comes, not from the front, but from the side.
And bringing me worms and trying to come in my house.
Yes, it was very weird. They're talking about the whole deal with Ronan. Dr. Heitmeyer says Ronan is fairly new here in Atlantis, so you know that this is all full of shit because he is not newer than Michael is here. If they're talking about they were talking before about how Michael had recently arrived. Ronan's been here a while now, so it sounds weird that she's saying he's fairly new here.
Indeed.
If Michael isn't actually newer than him. So, yeah. So she's also being squirrely.
Yeah.
And she says that he's clashed with personnel a few times, which is true.
Yes.
So Michael says he's just going to do his best to steer clear of him because he didn't mean to make Ronan angry and he's not really sure what he did, but he doesn't want to have Ronan as an enemy because he looks like the kind of person you really don't want as your enemy. And then Michael goes on to talk about the photo that he saw of his parents and the fact that he didn't even remember their faces and that it's just all so frustrating that he has no recollection of anything. She tries to be optimistic about it and says that he'll be sent home to be reunited with them soon enough, but they are going to hold off on that a little bit until he's at least a little better. He asks her if she thinks his memory is ever going to return, and she says they're not really sure, but they're going to keep these sessions going and maybe even try hypnosis at some point and see if that has any luck. Yeah. And Michael just says he wants to get back to normal like everybody else.
Aw. They made him so sympathetic.
Yes, they did.
And then Michael has a dream that he is amongst the Wraith on a Wraith cruiser. He wakes up from that like it was a nightmare. Then he gets up and gets some water, looks in the mirror, and he's a Wraith. It's a second dream, a dream within a dream.
This was very reminiscent of Discovery and the character who I'm forgetting, but you know which one I'm talking about. That was secretly a Klingon that was turned into a human.
Oh, what the hell was his name? I can't remember, but yes, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not a human, Laurel. I'm a Klingon whose body was changed to resemble one.
Yes, I understand. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
I forget his name because I haven't watched that show in a while, but yeah.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of that. Although I guess I should say that is reminiscent of this because this was filmed many years before that.
True. This is very true. So, quick double dream. And Michael then the next day talks about it with Taylor. He's like, it was a dream, but when I saw that face, and I know they did stuff to me, maybe they implanted something in my brain. He wants to know what they did. He asks Taylor to tell him, but Taylor's like, I don't know. And she says, you are not the only one who's had such terrible dreams. In fact, we have scary Wraith dreams all the time, even me, many times. And it is very scary, I agree, but There's really no conclusion. That's just the end of it. She's like, yep.
Yep.
But we just soldier on. She doesn't even say that.
It was the implication.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we're in that security room again, and Shepard and Rodney are there watching Michael on whatever monitors are in the room. Dr. Weir is there too, as is Beckett. So basically everyone is there. And Taylor comes in to tell them about the conversation that she just had with Michael about the dreams. And they clarify that it was just the one dream that he's had. He believes the Wraith did something to him during his capture. So maybe Dr. Beckett should be giving him some sort of a sedative to help him sleep at night, ideally without any dreams. Or increase his dosage of what, we don't know. He doesn't specify that. Although Dr. Beckett's not sure if he wants to increase the dosage of this mystery medicine that hasn't been named yet, because when Rodney asks why, it's because it's specifically calibrated regimen and it is according to his current physical condition. It is very specific to a number of different things, apparently, whatever this mystery thing is that he is being dosed with. Beckett is pretty convinced that if whatever the issues are just psychological, that Dr. Heitmeyer will be able to get him through whatever the issues are. Taylor thinks they should tell him the truth. She doesn't like keeping the thing from him that they are keeping from him. And she isn't sure that this is the correct course of action because Taylor is a good person.
She is a good person.
Yep.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not what they're going to do.
Nope.
And then we get another scene of Michael having a nightmare in his quarters.
And then maybe the next day, I don't know. It's during the day. Michael has another session with Dr. Heitmeyer. He is pretty distressed about these dreams. Dr. Heitmeyer says they're probably due to post-traumatic stress because some terrible thing that you don't know about happened to you. And maybe Dr. Beckett can prescribe you something. But Michael thinks maybe there's more to it. Something is not sitting right with him. He doesn't know what, though, but something. And he thinks everyone around him knows something, and they're just not telling him.
And he is right.
Including his therapist.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes it extra bad.
It really does.
Like gaslighting him to the extreme, basically.
Yeah. And he can see in her face, he's like, I see you. You are right now doing the thing I think is...
Yeah. You're doing a thing with your face. Yeah. You're clearly hiding something.
And she's like, oh, but... And so she's just gonna... be like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. You think that means we're keeping secrets? We'll see. She says there, but they're keeping secrets from you. Michael says it might not even be deliberate, but yes, everybody knows something about me, but they won't tell me. And I'm frustrated and I want to know what the Wraith did to me. Poor Michael.
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we're in the hall. Michael's on the way back to his quarters with his guards again, and he passes Shepard and Ronan. Apparently, he's got some more sleeping pills he's going to try, so he's excited to go take a nap, as I always am, too, when I go take a nap. Shepard tells him no alcohol or heavy machinery, and Michael is confused by what he means by that, which is weird if you have ever had any kind of medication that makes you drowsy, so
Indeed.
It's suspicious that Michael doesn't understand that reference.
True.
Yeah, so Shepard says nothing, sleep well. Then Michael tries to apologize to Ronan for whatever he might have done to upset him, and he wants to shake hands. Ronan refuses to shake hands.
Whoa, no touchy. No touchy. No touch.
Shepard tries to make him shake hands, and instead, Ronan punches him in the face. Him being Michael, not Shepard.
That would be a turn.
Yep. So they start getting into a fight, Michael trying to defend himself against Ronan, who's trying to beat the crap out of him. The guards get involved, Shepard gets involved, and break the two of them up. And then we're in Michael's quarters yet again, and he is once again having a nightmare. Or at least he's restless, I don't know. He's tossing and turning, and he does get up and goes outside. He tells the guards who are out there that he wants to go tell Dr. Beckett that the new pills aren't working, so he's going to head to the infirmary. They're, of course, going to head with him.
Stalkers.
Right? Seriously.
God. So that's what they do.
Yeah.
They go to the infirmary, but then they're bad at their job because they get distracted talking to somebody working there, leaving Michael to his own devices for this whole scene.
Yeah.
Dr. Beckett is there. He's sitting at a table. Michael goes over to him, but it is very clear that Dr. Beckett is fallen asleep.
We babies.
He's just got his hand holding his head up. So Michael has a look around, And he sees a calendar on Beckett's wall
There's a wall there.
that has the word Kenmore on it. Kenmore, isn't that his last name? Or so
sure
they
is.
tell him.
Yeah.
He keeps looking around. He looks back to make sure no one's paying attention. And of course not, because the guards are still talking to the woman who's in there. I don't know, a nurse or something. He finds a laptop. It's password protected, though, so he can't do anything about it. But then he finds a case of CDs in it, and they're labeled days 1 through something. Many days. With patient number something on it. So he takes it.
It had his name on the cover.
Oh, it did. Okay, sorry.
It did. Yeah, it wasn't just patient number something. He closed the book. And when he closed it, you could see that it said his name.
Okay. So he knew that was his sleeve of CDs to take.
Yes. See, I did catch some details, even despite the bird friend.
Thank you. So he apparently, I don't know, sticks it in his pants and goes back to his room with his security guards.
Yep. And then he's watching what's on those CDs. And it's a bunch of security camera videos of him, basically. Lying in bed, being restrained, having the various people talk to him. Beckett is in there talking about delta wave frequencies. Dr. Weir is in there. They're talking about how he might regain consciousness. And it's basically just a montage of experiments on Michael as we go further and further back. He started at the end for whatever reason, and so he goes further and further back. And in each of the videos, he becomes a bit less human. So the last video, the one that he started with, he was unconscious, but he's awake in the ones before that. Less and less human, more and more agitated and angry. His voice gets deeper. And then by the time that we get to the end, we realize, oh yeah, he is definitely not actually a human. Yeah. He was a wraith.
It was pretty shocking. I know I've seen this before, but
Yeah.
it was pretty shocking, especially Connor Trinneer did such a good job being shocked at his own reveal.
He did, yeah. And it's pretty upsetting, too, when there's a scene of Ronan and Shepard holding him down and basically taunting him and saying, you're going to need a name. How's Mike sound?
Yeah, it's very casually cruel in some way.
Yeah. I didn't like it.
No. I mean, that's Shepard's thing. He names the Wraith, so...
I know, but still,
Yeah.
he was their captive and he was just taunting the guy while he holds him down and they're doing stuff to him.
Yeah.
It just felt icky.
Yeah.
I hated it.
So Dr. Beckett at some point woke up and ran in there with the guards just in time for Michael to furiously turn the laptop around and show his Wraith face.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was-
Good timing.
Yeah. Whew. Probably soon afterwards, Shepard and Weir are also in the room with them. So we've got guards, we've got Beckett, we've got Weir. Everybody's just chilling in Michael's room. He is very upset.
Understandably.
He's like, you lied, I'm a Wraith. And Weir says, no, you were a Wraith. Then she calls him Michael, and he's like, that's not my name. Dr. Weir asks if she can explain. He's like, sure, okay. No more lies, please. She explains that Dr. Beckett has figured out how to remove the Eratus bug portions of Wraith DNA, leaving only the human part behind.
I still hate that that's the story that they're going with, though, that the Wraith evolved from Eratus bugs and acquired human DNA somewhere.
It's a retrovirus.
But humans aren't retroviruses, though, so how did those viruses get inserted into DNA of the Eratus?
I just meant his cure was a retrovirus.
Well,
and also
yes,
I just wanted to
it
say, in Beckett voice.
Fair.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the Beckett voice.
So Michael's like, yeah, so that insulin you're giving me? And Beckett's like, yeah, that's not insulin. We have to use this drug to continue suppressing your Wraith elements from returning. Michael's like, what gives you the right to do this to me?
That's a valid question.
It is. But Shepard's like, we're at war. The Wraith are going to kill all of us, so we're going to stop you from killing us first. But they did take it further. He says, you made up everything about me. You showed me photographs of my parents. Dr. Weir says that was her decision to lie to him. And she said, we were worried that you're going to react how you're reacting right now, which
Which is understandable.
Yes.
Anyone would have this reaction, regardless of whether they were a wraith or not.
Like, how can you do this to someone, but then also to lie? Like, every word out of their mouths has been lies to him. Like, I can totally... They're the villains right now.
Are we the baddies?
They really are, because not only have they physically abused him, but they've also mentally abused him and gaslit him the entire time at this point.
Yeah. Shepard says that was the point, to erase all trace of Wraith from you and not keep reminding you of you, and you're a lot better off now than you were before, he says.
Yeah. Says you.
Which, yeah.
I mean, obviously we're all anti-Wraith, but from his Wraith perspective, he's not better off.
No.
From a certain point of view.
It was a rough scene.
It
Poor
was.
Michael.
Yeah.
Poor Wraith.
Yeah. Well...
I know, it's hard because they are the villains and they clearly would kill all of them if they could, but at the same time, they humanized this guy, literally.
Yep, he did.
Yeah.
And then sometime later, they're in the conference room. Ronan is convinced the entire thing was a bad idea. I agree with Ronan. Shepard thinks that it was a good idea. The retrovirus works, and they know that much, so they can deploy it like a biological weapon, and they can use it on whole hive ships to turn them human. That makes no sense to me that they want to use it to turn entire hive ships human, because they just said that you need to keep doing the treatment or they're going to revert. It's not like they're all going to turn human and be like, oh yeah, this is great, I'm going to stay human. No, they would all want to go back to being a wraith, so they would not be injecting themselves every day, and you cannot inject every one of the millions of wraiths. So I thought that was just such a dumb and weird plan.
Yeah. Also, would all of their memories be erased and they'd just be very confused humans and then wraith?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't sure if the amnesia was something that they'd somehow induced in him.
Oh, that's a good question.
Or if that was a result of the retrovirus. We don't really find that out, and I was curious to know. Yeah. Beckett does say that it is a ways off before they would be able to use it in that way. So I would hope that they would find some version of it that you won't need to do booster shots of.
Yeah.
In order to make that work, but also wouldn't think they should do that.
No.
Necessarily. Ronan says that they can change him to look human and to talk like a human, but he's always going to be a wraith and they're not ever going to change that, which is exactly correct.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that scene. And then we're in Michael's quarters with Taylor there talking to Michael.
This is the one with the mirror.
So okay.
She's talking to him and you see him in the mirror, at least reacting to her initially when she's talking.
Yeah, she's at least trying to kind of smooth things over with him. She knows that he's angry and that they've put him through a lot, but they're hoping that he'll come to see it as, I don't know, not awful. He cuts her off before she can finish that sentence, and I was kind of curious what she was going to actually say there. He asks if she was part of the team that captured him, and she says that she was. So he's angry at her now because he thought that they were friends, and now he finds out that she captured him rather than saving him. And she says she would still like to be his friend, but he doesn't believe her, and that is understandable. Even though Taylor says that he can't understand it now, but making him human is definitely going to make his life better, which he has very good points here of, I like being a wraith. I think I was pretty happy being a wraith. I don't see why being a human is better. I was fine the way that I was before, which... I mean, yes, from our perspective, they are terrible, but from his perspective, there was nothing wrong with him, and he didn't need fixing, so it was a hard scene for that reason, too. Taylor goes on talking about how the Wraith are evil, and they kill us and feed on us, and you can definitely understand her perspective because she grew up with it, but Michael doesn't see how humans are any different because of the terrible things that they've done to him. That's not compassion, he points out, and Taylor has no response to that because it was a good point.
Yeah. Then he goes to therapy again.
Yeah.
Which, again, your therapist has been lying to you this whole time. She's like, your feelings of betrayal are understandable, and you need to talk about them and resolve them. And he's like, with you? And she's like, yeah. Then he says something's been cleared up for him, and now he knows what the strange feeling he's been feeling since the beginning was. It's his wraith of basic instincts, hunger and aggression, and he can feel them even more strongly now that he knows what happened. After this session, Weir and company are meeting again. It's Beckett, Taylor, Shepard. They're, again, spying on Michael. Not spying, observing. Watching Michael while they talk about him. Heitmeyer is immediately, obviously, told Dr. Weir that Michael thinks he's feeling wraithy again. And maybe Dr. Beckett could do something to suppress that more. And Dr. Beckett says no, he thinks it could be psychological. But Shepard's like, maybe time to up the dose? Because he knows what's going on and it might get worse. Dr. Weir says she agrees. So Beckett's like, all right, well, his next injection is happening soon, so I'll go ahead and increase the dosage. Dr. Weir says, let's hope he agrees to take it, like he's given any consent to any of this before. Like,
right. What choice does he have if they decide to make him take it, which is basically what they've been doing?
Yeah, and Shepard's like, we're going to have to insist if he doesn't want to, and maybe if we do a big enough dose, it'll wipe his memory again. Like, what the fuck? And Taylor says, what, are we going to start lying again after that if that happens? No answers to that.
The guard, Sergeant Cole, one of the guards anyway, comes to get Michael from his quarters and take him to the infirmary for that supposed upped dose that he's going to be getting. Ronan comes in and takes the place of one of the other guards. He's just there waiting for Michael to give him a reason to kill him, so he's still antagonizing Michael.
Yes.
This whole time. But Michael actually says he just appreciates Ronan with being honest from him from the start, unlike everyone else who was pretending to be his friend.
It's true.
Yeah. So they need to get moving again because they've stopped to have this conversation. Sergeant Cole reminds them they need to get working on or get back to heading to the infirmary. They're still calling him Michael and Lieutenant Kenmore, even though we now know that that's not his real name and he doesn't, in fact, have a rank. So I did think that was a bit weird.
The rank thing is weird. I don't know what else they would call him. It's not like they can ask him what his name is.
Didn't they get his name at some point? Because isn't this the same guy that they captured, I don't know, a while back? I thought they'd gotten his name at some point. Maybe
I
not.
have no idea where they got this guy from.
Yeah. Didn't they capture him? I'm forgetting when.
Is it the same guy? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the same guy that they captured like on that ship that had all of those pods when they were on the ship with all the pods.
Huh.
I thought they captured. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe I'm thinking of the curly-haired Janai lady who they also captured and we never saw
They
again.
just like to disappear their prisoners after a while. I don't know.
No, they definitely had a Wraith captured at some point, and I don't remember 100% what happened to him. But I thought they just put him away, so I thought this was the same guy. Anyway, instead of heading back to the infirmary, Michael takes a second and basically makes a run for it. He starts a fight and basically throws Cole into Ronan and then throws another guard into the wall and is able to run away.
Run away.
Run away. Ronan takes his blaster and fires, but he does not manage to get Michael. So now Michael's on the loose and Cole has to radio everybody to say that Kenmore has escaped. Ronan and Cole and his team chase Michael down the stairs. Michael has a gun at this point, and he comes up on Cole from behind and tells him to drop his weapons.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Cole tells him to take it easy, Lieutenant, but Michael does not want to be called that anymore since, again, that's not his actual rank. And he again says to drop his weapon. And Cole instead starts to turn around and Michael shoots him.
Cole got himself killed.
He did because he had a weapon. And he was turning to pull it on Michael.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if someone has a gun on you, tells you to drop your weapon, and you don't, and you turn around, sadly, this is what happens. So, yeah, so he got shot. Ronan comes up very quickly after that. But before Ronan manages to shoot Michael, Shepard is there with a stunner, and he shoots Michael with the stunner before Ronan can just kill him with his giant gun.
I thought that was pretty cool. Like,
yeah.
Because Ronan was ready to shoot, and like then all of a sudden, boom.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Shepard says it's because he figured you forgot to set it to stun, which surely Ronan had.
Yeah.
Taylor comes up and confirms that Sergeant Cole is dead.
Yep.
So they're going to take Michael to a standing cell with a force field activated around it.
Ooh, very exciting. New location.
Yeah.
While they're getting him settled, Dr. Weir and everybody, it might be all of Team Farts, except for Rodney. Rodney actually wasn't in this
Rodney
episode.
really wasn't in this.
Team Shart
Yeah.
is. Sorry, I said Farts. Like, where'd Ford come from? Yeah, Rodney is only in that one scene?
Apparently.
Yeah.
No, he was in one or two other ones, but
Okay.
only very briefly. Not most of them, though.
The main crew who's been dealing with Michael are all here conferring. Dr. Weir says even locked up, they can't keep him here. It's too dangerous. I think this is an insane take.
They've had him presumably for a while at this point, if it is the same guy, so can't you?
Yeah, and even if it's not, their problem, I think, so far is that they're bad at guarding people. But locking him in a cell might be fine.
Right.
It's kind of weird that they're like, instead, we need to take him to the Alpha site.
Yeah, I did think that was very weird. I didn't understand why they thought that was a good idea.
Where we have presumably very little security and infrastructure. It was, strange move, but okay.
Very bizarre.
They decide they're going to take him to the Alpha site and continue their drug treatments there. Because Dr. Beckett was going to increase the dosage, Dr. Weir's like, hopefully that will continue to eliminate Wraith impulses even more strongly. And Ronan's like, we just need to kill him. He killed one of your people. The experiment is bad. Kill him.
Shoot her! Shoot her!
Which, he's got a point.
He does.
But they're like, no, we can't kill him. Dr. Heitmeyer says we did this to him.
They did.
Yeah, but Shepard argues he'd still be a Wraith without the retrovirus, so we wouldn't think twice about killing a Wraith, so... But Taylor's like, no, he's human now, and we are responsible for this, and we have to treat him like any other human. But Ronan is like, he is not human, he's a Wraith. It is just a crazy... All of it's crazy. I understand, like, the different perspectives, but it's just all so crazy.
Agree.
Yeah. Dr. Weir then asks if Dr. Beckett thinks the treatments continuing is worthwhile. He says he's not sure. He says we could see how it goes with the increased dosage and shrug from there. So Dr. Weir says we have come too far to just abandon this now, which is a sunk cause fallacy. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sunk cost. Did I say cause? Yeah.
I heard cost.
Okay,
If
good.
You said cause. I heard cost.
Okay, good. I'm like, I don't know about that one, Dr. Weir. But that's what they're going to go with.
Yep, it is. And then in the brig, Michael is pacing around in his little cell. Taylor comes in and asks the guards to step outside. He asks what's going to happen, and she tells him about the plan to take him to another planet. He figures that it's just because they want him to not learn any more about Atlantis than he already has. He's also guessing that they're afraid that if a Wraith ship comes close enough, he'll be able to communicate telepathically with them and tell them where they are, which makes sense, I suppose. But I don't know how putting him on an off-planet site would prevent that. Because if a Wraith ship came close enough to that Alpha site, then the same thing would happen.
Yeah. Your logic is bad, guys.
It is bad, yeah. Michael does say that he didn't want to kill Cole before. He's trying to escape. And that's kind of understandable, but here we are.
Yeah.
Taylor says they're going to continue the drug treatments, and Dr. Beckett's going to increase the dose, and it's going to be for your own good in the end. Otherwise, the alternative is death. You'll be happier in the end, and then you won't die, and it's going to be great. Taylor tries to convince him, but he does not seem very convinced.
No, he doesn't. He really doesn't have a choice.
Nope.
We have a short scene in the gate room while they're preparing for this mission. Apparently, there's not a lot of stuff on the Alpha site yet, so they gotta bring a lot of stuff. But the point of the scene is for Dr. Beckett to blame himself for Cole's death. And Dr. Weir's like, it's not your fault, it's my fault. I'm in charge of all of this. So don't feel bad. But he's gonna feel bad because he's Dr. Beckett.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's gonna feel bad too, I guess. I don't know. I don't know about Weir these days. Yeah. Back in the brig, Shepard comes to see Michael, stuns him, and a group moves in to carry him out to the Alpha site.
And then we're at the Alpha site. Taylor is there with Michael, who is waking up in a hut of some sort. She tells him everything is fine. Everything's fine. Nothing went wrong. Michael wants to know what happened, and she tells him about the sedation and their transport. And Michael is tied to the bed, which is not great, but she says it's just a precaution. And she asks how he's feeling, and he says he's feeling very hungry. She's going to go get him some food. I don't think that's the kind of food he meant.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we get a scene of Beckett working on some retrovirus to give to Michael, presumably. Taylor comes back to Michael's hut with some soup and tells him it's called Meals Ready to Eat, which is in a bag next to the soup on the cart thing that she has. Michael, of course, can't eat because he is tied to the bed, so she does untie his hands for him, which is nice of her. And he says that she is different from the others, and he noticed it the first time that he saw her, and she's the only person willing to understand him. And she continues to untie him. He says that she's the only one with a truly open mind, and his voice is getting very echoey. So as she's continuing to untie him, you get for sure the impression that it's not because she's just being nice and doesn't think it's moral to tie him down, but he's definitely using some mind control on her.
Yeah.
Continuing on about how she's the only one willing to show compassion, and the word continues to echo around as she's continuing to untie him. And then as soon as he's untied, he spins her around and he looks like he's about to break her neck, but thankfully he does not do that. However, now he's got a captive.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
He sure does. Everyone else finds out shortly that Michael has escaped and taken Taylor hostage. Dr. Beckett reports he forced a security detail outside the infirmary to drop their weapons or he would kill her, so he points in the direction that Michael has headed for. There's a team already on their way, but Ronan and Shepard are on this. So they start heading up to follow Michael. Out in the woods, Michael is tying Taylor's hands up. He tells her it's just a precaution, and he's like, I know you're angry, I lied to you, but you did not have a right to do this to me, and I'm not going to let you experiment on me anymore. Good for you, Michael.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And then he points a gun at her and tells her to keep going. So they keep going. Meanwhile, Ronan and Shepard continue tracking Michael. Ronan says he's been changing directions and that he's good at this, and the tracks are difficult to follow. And Shepard's like, but you can follow them, right? Right? That's your thing. And Shepard's like, not your only thing, okay? But it's your thing. So Ronan's like, all right, let's go. So they continue tracking him.
Michael and Taylor get to the DHD, and he is going to leave the planet. He doesn't know where he's going to go. He's just going to go literally anywhere that is not here. We get a quick shot of Ronan and Shepard still trying to track them down. They find the guards that had been guarding the gate unconscious, maybe dead. We don't really know for sure. At the gate, Taylor, as luck would have it, is sitting on a piece of slate with enough rocks in sight and can also see the DHD well enough that she is able to carve the address that Michael is dialing into the slab of stone that she is sitting on.
It is quite convenient.
Yes, very convenient. And the gate does open. They get through the gate. There is a firefight in the meantime, and Ronan tries to run up and leap through the gate, but even though it always stays open conveniently long enough, in this case, it did not stay open conveniently long enough and closed conveniently quickly enough so that Ronan just leapt through it and landed on the ground on the other side, and it was silly to me.
It was a little silly.
Yep.
I did like that you saw this, Ronan and Shepard running towards them through the puddle. Like,
yeah,
that was a fun perspective. True. I really liked this episode, the way it was put together. Anyway.
Fair.
Yeah.
Then we get a quick scene of Taylor and Michael coming through on some other planet. Taylor wants to know what this place is. Michael doesn't answer, and they head off into the woods.
Yay, the woods.
Into the woods, who knows what may be lurking on the journey.
Yeah. Back on the Alpha site, Stargate, Shepard is very upset about how they need to get Rodney there. They need to try to figure out the last gate dialed, but nope. Ronan has found the slate that Taylor wrote the address on.
Yeah. Woo-woo. On the planet Michael and Taylor are on, they continue walking. Michael says they're going to rest soon, so they come to a stop after a moment. Taylor says she senses Wraith nearby. Michael's like, yes, there are. And we see Michael now. We hadn't really seen him clearly in this scene until then.
Yeah.
And he is looking much more wraithy than he has been.
Sure is. It's weird seeing a Wraith face with short hair.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know why, but they all have very long hair. And
they
so
do.
To see one with short hair just seemed strange.
It's very strange. He hasn't gone full Wraith yet, but his eyes are getting yellowy, and you're starting to see like little face indentations, and he's definitely a a lot paler than he was before.
He sure is.
Taylor tells him, we could still go back. Dr. Beckett could give you an injection. You wouldn't be in pain anymore, because he is also kind of writhing in pain upright. But yeah, at this point. And he's like, no, I'm returning to what I was. What I am. As he menacingly moves towards Taylor.
Indeed.
And then I don't know what he does. He must knock her out, because then she wakes up. I don't think she just went to sleep.
No, not likely.
But he's also unbound her.
Yeah. I think he took some mercy on her for being nice to him.
Yeah.
Was my impression.
Yeah. So she comes to, starts looking around for stuff she can use to get out of there. Then she sees there's a whole Wraith cruiser on this planet and a bunch of Wraith leaving the ship. And then Michael speaks. He's like, this is what I was drawn to. And he sounds Wraithy now. And
he does.
When we look at him, he's even more Wraithy. He's gotten a little greener.
His hair's turned white.
Yeah, his little face is more pronounced Wraithish. And I think his teeth are even getting Wraithy. But he hasn't gotten quite gross-mouthed yet.
No, not quite.
And Taylor's like, they're coming for us. He's like, yep, and I'm going to join them. She's like, we're going to be enemies again. And Michael's like, we were never not enemies. Taylor says, are you going to feed on me? Is this why you brought me here? He said he'd be lying if he didn't feel the urge. And then he puts his palm right toward Taylor as if he's going to feed on her, but then decides maybe he won't. But then at the last minute, after he pulls his hand back, he does a menacing snarl and like raises his arm like he's going to. And conveniently, Shepard and Ronan arrive to shoot him. Woohoo!
Good timing. My impression with the palm thing was that he realized that he had his little feeding hole in his hand again because there's a slit in his palm now.
Ah, okay. So
I think he was just trying to show her, look, I can actually feed on you if I really wanted to, and I'm just choosing not to. That was my impression.
Yeah, I just didn't know at the end, like, he does one last, like, hand raise like he's going to, but we don't see what he's going to do because then he gets shot. So I wasn't sure. So with Michael down, Taylor joins her team again. The Wraith arrive. There's a firefight exchange, but the team gets out of there, leaving Michael behind. And the Wraith conveniently out loud say he's alive and pick him up and drag him off to their ship, which I didn't. I thought the Wraith were mostly telepathic with each other.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird, but thanks for that. That was for our benefit.
Closed captioning provided by.
It sure was. Then we're back in the conference room, and everybody is there. Team Shart. Is Dr. Beckett there? No. Team Shart is there. Dr. Weir is there, talking about how he has completely turned into a Wraith, or, well, not yet completely, but he's well on his way, so of course he's going to. Dr. Beckett is there and says that his reversion occurred way faster than they had expected it to. And now that he is there, Taylor points out he's getting his memory back, and also he's got the full memory of what they did to him intact. They also talk about the fact that he now has his full memory of Atlantis existing and may have even picked up some secrets that they really don't want the Wraiths to have. They don't really know what he might have been able to learn in his time there when he was accessing their computers and whatnot. So that seems bad. So it's a pretty safe bet that they're going to be sending some more hive ships to Atlantis. Ronan points out even that they're probably already on the way. And they are definitely not going to fall for the invisibility trick. Rodney points out he is there. He does get a little bit of more of a scene here. So they need to come up with a defense plan. And they're going to need more firepower. Dun, dun, dun. End of episode.
Yeah.
It's a very weird, abrupt ending.
It is.
Did you like the episode?
I did like this episode. I liked it a lot. I think I've already mentioned multiple times that I really liked the way they did all the scenes and the lighting, and sort of the whole surveillance thing was kind of cool too. And doing this from Michael's perspective, I thought was a really great choice. Maybe it wouldn't have worked as well if they didn't have such a good actor doing it, but Connor Trinneer was freaking fantastic.
He was.
And I thought that Rachel Luttrell particularly did a great job conveying her discomfort with what was going on, but while also participating in it. I didn't make me like the people on the show any better, because they were sure doing some things that were not okay by a lot.
Yeah.
But I just thought the episode itself was just great, honestly. How about you?
I had very mixed feelings about it. I did think it was an interesting episode, and I love Connor Trinneer, so I was very happy that he was in it. But like for me, one of the things that I do in my A&P class that I think is important is I actually spend a little bit of time at the beginning of the semester talking about how we know the things that we learned, because a lot of the basic knowledge of how the human body works that we actually gained by immoral experiments on people that were being held captive. Like, we know a lot about how the brain works because of people being held in sanatoriums. And there was like the whole debacle with frontal lobotomies where they were just literally going in through people's eye sockets to scramble up their frontal lobe because they were hard to take care of in the sanatoriums. And there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with these people. They were just trying to escape because it was awful.
Yeah.
And so they were doing frontal lobotomies on them to basically make them a vegetable so that they couldn't escape anymore. And then you see similar things happening in like World War II in the Nazi death camps. We know a lot about things like breast cancer and lung cancer and different types of medical treatments because of experiments that Nazis did on people that were in those camps. So I had a lot of issues with this because of that, because I'm teaching my students, like, it is awful that we did these things, that we got information, but we need to respect the sacrifices of the people that were tortured essentially to get this knowledge. And so the fact that they were now in this episode literally torturing Michael supposedly for his own benefit, and also just making him a guinea pig, and then also gaslighting him. So it was both physical and mental torture of sorts. I couldn't get past that. I hated that this was the thing that they were doing. So
sure, absolutely.
No, I didn't like this episode for that reason. Because again, I spend so much time talking to my students about how this is deplorable behavior.
Yeah.
And it's thankfully not a thing we generally do, at least in this country anymore. So I hated seeing them doing all of this.
I haven't read a lot about human experimentation, but I did read a book about experiments that were done on animals by, particularly, I think in this book, I read a book called The Poisoner's Handbook, which was about, I think it was like the 1920s medical examiners in New York just doing all kinds of animal experiments. And that's how you learn a lot more about poisons and whatnot. And
yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
Oh, right. The poison for Cusco. The poison chosen specially to kill Cusco. Cusco's poison.
It was a really interesting book. Do recommend, but
I'm sure it was. But yeah,
the things people
a terrible
did.
time for animals too. I mean, it's still, animal experimentation is still awful, but there's a lot more rules and guidelines about humane treatment, at least nowadays, than there used to be.
Yeah.
And it's still awful and a form of abuse, but in some ways it is kind of unavoidable. But like,
even worse on humans.
Human experimentation, like,
horrifying.
Not to mention things like the Tuskegee experiment, which I talk to my students about too. And that was like by our own government that was doing the Tuskegee experiment and giving Black people syphilis and not telling them, and like just such awful things that have happened.
Yes.
But I mean, at least in that case, the Tuskegee experiment, the people weren't being held captive. It doesn't make it any better, but slightly different scenario. But it's just awful to be doing experimentation on people against their will, obviously. And now we have things like informed consent, which I make sure that my students are also well aware of what informed consent is and why it's important and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, so this is a really, really fucked up episode.
It was, yeah. So that's my conclusion. I have mixed feelings because I think it was pretty well done on the whole. It was an interesting plot. And I love Connor Trinneer, like I said, but it does change my opinion of like everybody that was involved in this, though. Everybody on Atlantis being involved in this. I hate that.
Except for Ronan. He just holds true to himself through the whole thing.
Yeah. And Rodney was barely involved, so I'll give him a pass too.
Fair.
Because I love Rodney.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Taylor, I'll give a partial pass because she was a conscientious objector, essentially, and she was participating, but she was participating minimally and was speaking up for him on occasion and trying to be friends with him. So, I mean, like, it's still bad, but I feel like her participation was not as problematic as Beckett, Shepard, and Weir.
And Heitmeyer, my God.
And Heitmeyer, that's just awful too. Being the therapist that is in on this and gaslighting your patient like this was just deplorable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shame. Yes. Who will not be shamed next time?
Ugh, yikes. Season 9, Disc 5, if anyone cares, which I'm sure nobody does because no one watches it on DVD. Episode 19, Crusade. Vala returns to Stargate Command. Great! To deliver startling news, the Ori have been steadily building military forces and plan to launch a crusade against their dissidents in the near future.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the booklet, obviously, hence my reference to the DVDs. And then meanwhile, over at TVDB, Vala Maldoran makes contact with Stargate Command from the Ori home galaxy and tells the story of her life undercover in a village of followers building the Ori's invasion fleet.
Ooh. Similar explanations-ish.
I'm not thrilled that Vala is back. I knew she came back eventually, but...
Fair.
Here we are. I was enjoying her not being in it for a while.
I don't know. There were some low points where I wanted Vala back, so...
I definitely didn't want her back, but that doesn't mean that all of the episodes that she was not in were good. They for sure weren't, but there were a couple decent ones.
Yeah. I think there
were a few that I liked.
Yeah, I think we're in the middle of an upswing, I feel like, in goodness of SG-1 episodes, so...
We have been.
Yeah.
Here's hoping that this doesn't reverse that.
Fair.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Thank you so much for listening to Stargatesing with Kathy and Mary. Our fully listener-supported program couldn't be done without you. Show your support by telling everyone you know how awesome this show is. Find us at stargatesing.space. Reach us by email, stargatesing@gmail.com. Find us on social media at Blue Sky. Get some merch, tinyurl/stargatesing. And finally, show your financial support at patreon.com/stargatesing. Thank you for traveling through the gate with us. Catch you next time on Stargatesing with Kathy and Mary.
I'm Kathy.
I'm Mary.
And you've been listening to Stargatesing. The end.
The end.
Oh, now I'm going to look it up too because I am also nosy. This is definitely what we should be doing during the podcast.
Yep, absolutely. I'm sure everyone cares.